Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. All right, today's episode is my thoughts on accelerated medical coding programs. Okay, there are many programs out there about getting your credential, and they promise that they're going to get you through very quickly and that you can pass your certification and that you can start your career as a medical coder. Now, I have been in the industry for over a decade, and I went through a self-paced program myself. If you've seen some of my videos, you already know my backstory. I will look for some of the videos that I have where I talk about my beginning steps and link it into this video. But for the main reason of this video, I want to talk about my thoughts on these accelerated programs. I've gotten a complaint many times from many people saying that they felt that they were only taught to pass the certification exam, and now that they are in the real world of coding, they have no idea what they're doing and they feel very lost. And some of the thought is, well, you'll learn when you get into wherever you're going, they'll train you and things like that. A lot of times you're going to have to know how to medical code before you walk in the door. Now, there is training on the job sometimes for some things, okay? Mostly these are how to work their computer systems, how to do their processes and things like that. But for the most part, the fundamentals of medical coding should already be known by the medical coder. This means knowing your guidelines for diagnosis coding and procedural coding and evaluation and management coding. There are a lot of things to becoming a medical coder. There is a lot of knowledge that you have to gain. Now, I always stress that if you can pick between a self-paced program or some other program where you feel like you can go at your own pace, or you can go at a normal pace, not this accelerated pace, you are going to be able to have the time to get those building blocks that you need to become a well-rounded, knowledgeable coder, okay? When you are going through accelerated programs, these little rapid fire programs, it is hard because it is so much information. Now, I have never been through one of these programs, so I don't know their curriculum. I don't know how it's set up. I don't know how they are particularly teaching these classes. However, what I do know is that when you're having a lot of information thrown at you, it can get overwhelming. So it can do either one of two things. It can overwhelm you into not even wanting to become a medical coder, or it can just give you a very bad taste about the field in general. So I really enjoy what I do. I love being a medical coder. I love talking about it. I love being in the field. I love everything that I have to learn. Now, if you are trying to find like other people's opinion on it, you're going to get varying answers. Not all people are like me, that they truly love what they do. Some people are a medical coder. They go to work, they collect a check, and they go home. They put zero effort in, and they don't want to learn anything new. They want to stay in their same clinics. They want to do the same things. They want to report the same different codes or the same different procedures because that is what they do. And medical coders make very good money, and please do not ask me what medical coders make because it varies everywhere in the U.S. So go to the Department of Labor at dol.gov, and it will tell you in your location how much a medical coder can make. So sometimes people see the money and they want to get into it for the money, but it takes a lot more than just that. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of grit. It takes so much because your ego and your self-esteem is going to take a hit, especially if you are not studying like you were supposed to, okay? You have to study in order to know and have these good building blocks to go on, okay? The better you are at understanding the body, the anatomy and physiology, your medical terminology, the better off you're going to be once you get out into the real world. Because when you get in the real world, that's not where you want to be floundering, okay? The time to learn and flounder is when you are in school. So if you are considering one of these accelerated programs, I hope you have a medical background, because at least that way you've had some time to know all of this stuff. You've had the building blocks. But if you are just a lay person off the street, it is going to be completely overwhelming. At least that's what I would think, in my opinion, that it would be so overwhelming for somebody that doesn't know anything about the medical field. When I started in medical coding school, I had zero knowledge about the medical field. I had no knowledge whatsoever. I knew nothing about medical terminology, nothing at all. But I studied and I worked hard. I am a reader. That is me naturally anyway. I wanted to be a lawyer before I got into this, okay? So I am just a natural reader. And for me, studying is not an issue. When you are a medical coder, you will have to read a lot, and you will have to have very good reading comprehension, because to understand what you're reading is so fundamental to what we do. And this part gets lost on a lot of people, because sometimes coders just want to know what to report, what procedures, what diagnosis, and that's it. They just want to go through this automated sort of thing where they just do the same thing over and over again, and not really digging deep into the documentation. Well, what happens when you do that is, if everything is reported as the same and you're not making efforts to improve, help your provider to improve, and help your provider to maximize the amount of credit they're getting because of all the work they are doing, that can potentially lead to a problem later on down the road. If you are reporting the same thing all of the time when you are a coder, and you just want to go with the flow and things like that, what happens is medical coders get audited by insurance companies as well. So if they're noticing that there's a lot of documentations that's going through the same, and then an auditor gets a hold of it and looks at it and says, well, this documentation is not supporting the payment that we gave you, so we're going to demand our money back. This is why having a good attitude about being a medical coder and always willing to learn is so crucial. Because if you have the attitude of, well, I'm just here to collect a check and go home, there's a problem with that, because then you end up making mistakes. Not every provider is the same. Not every encounter is the same. So this is the reason that you have to look at everything in such detail. You have to look at it and read. And a lot of people will ask me, is this detail oriented? It is extremely detail oriented. And you have to read. And when you are going to apply for jobs, you have to take tests every time, because they need to know what your knowledge base is. So while you may be running around with a credential, it's going to be hard to get a job if you are not marrying the knowledge and that credential together at the same time, which is why I have such a hard time with these fast programs, because if you have your certification doesn't mean that you know what you're doing. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't know this, okay? They see that you're a medical coder, great. We need a coder real bad, so we're going to hire you. You should know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have anybody to ask, that's even more of an issue. So if you are considering becoming a medical coder, please take it seriously. Please take the time to do the building blocks of becoming a medical coder and know and have a good knowledge base, okay? Which is your anatomy, physiology, medical terminology. Those are your base things. Then you can worry about learning your coding guidelines later on. And then you can worry about learning how to look up codes in the book. These are things that come in with time, and they take steps to learn. I did over 10 years now of studying and learning, and I'm still continuing to learn. So this is not something that the learning is going to stop as soon as you get your credential, okay? And then you have to do continuing education units, which is even more studying, okay? And not only that, sometimes you have to pay for them as well. So you have to pay to maintain these. You have to pay for a membership if you decide to become a member of an association, which I strongly recommend, because they have the all the information that you need about what's going on with changes that are going on with medical coding, because there's changes every single year. Now, not the changes may not always impact you in your clinic wherever you're coding, but it could potentially impact the things that you do and how you code. So this is very important to consider before getting into this field. Now, I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but this is just a response to this question of, is it worth it to go into those accelerated programs? If you have a medical background already, maybe you'll be able to learn it a lot faster. But if you have no medical background, it's going to be difficult because it is a lot of information. Okay? And another question that I've been getting is, can I study on my own to become a medical coder and just take my certification exam that way? Of course. Both associations, both the American Health Information Management Association and the American Academy of Professional Coders, have their entry-level credentials that you can study for, and be sure to check the website for the education requirements on those. But yes, you can study on your own to take these certification exams, only the entry-level ones, okay? Not all of them, because there's multiple credentials for each association. So some of those require a college background, okay? So keep that in mind, or experience. So that's something to keep in mind before you start looking into this field. This field is very rewarding, but it is a serious field and it takes a lot of commitment. So if you are serious, then okay. But if you are just looking for an easy job, this is not an easy job. And this is not easy money, despite what anybody says. This is not easy money. We get paid very well, but we have to work for it. And when I see coders that don't apply themselves and they just sort of skate along, it just breaks my heart, because not only are your actions impacting you as a coder, they're impacting your provider, and in turn, it's impacting the facility that you work at. So that's just my thoughts on that one. Always look for accredited schools. If you are looking to get into a medical coding program, look for an accredited school. The American Health Information Management Association has a list of accredited schools that offer programs that marry up with their credentials. I don't know about the American Academy of Professional Coders because I'm not a member of them, but I always recommend looking at the website and calling the customer service hotline. Now, everybody asks me which one do I recommend. I'm always going to recommend AHIMA because I know them, okay? And sometimes this upsets people, but I mean, I can't recommend something that I don't know, all right? So I've been with AHIMA for over 10 years, and I am very appreciative. I love my association. I love the things that they do, the good work that they've done for the industry. So that's just my opinions on that one. I am always here for questions if you guys have any questions, because I love what I do. And I am going to be working on other episodes today. Also, I am going to be uploading the video for Quiz Friday here shortly. So be expecting that. All right. So, but if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. Okay. I will see y'all on the next video. Bye.